Hi, my name is Darren Zupke, and I'm here with Harrison Miller, principal bassoonist of the Baltimore Symphony. Today, we're going to be talking about our teacher, Judy LeClair, and her 2014 recording of the Mozart Bassoon Concerto. Thank you for joining me, Harrison. If you wouldn't mind, could you first tell me a little bit about your experience studying with Judy?
Thank you so much, Darren. It's great to be here. So I studied with Judy at Juilliard from 2013 until 2017. I did my undergraduate degree there with her, and it was amazing, an amazing 4 years of my life. They were probably the most important years of my musical development, because I was right at that age where I needed somebody to kind of be like, you know, get it together. Here's what you need to do. And not in a way that would make me feel like I was, needing a ton of work, but in just like, if this is what you want to do, then this is what you have to do in terms of your input to yield the output that you want in terms of career success. So, there was a very, very skillful way of challenging me without ever making me feel like beaten down or hurt or upset. I mean, I think that is an amazing skill as a teacher. I mean, it's necessary, but the way that Judy is able to really push her students while they still feel supported is incredible. I think all of us are really lucky that we had a teacher that was so devoted to her students. Like the thing that I think that maybe we don't realize is that, like, having a teacher that you can text with and know that you're going to get a text back with an answer if you have a question about reads, lessons, anything in like maybe 15 minutes, unless she's in rehearsal, is unbelievable. The way that Judy makes time and devotes herself to the students that she has is amazing. I really think that Judy LeClair may have some of the best ears in the business. I love that whenever you hear Judy play, it's Judy. I mean, everybody has this, and maybe it's just because I studied with her, and I love that kind of sound identity exists, that you can hear her and it's her. And there's such a even in all this kind of a technical work that's happening in the exposition and throughout the first movement, there's always that moment when you hear the amazing lyricism that you and I both know she teaches so well. Mm-hmm. And whether it's in the octaves and or in just the way that these short scales are passed. For me, sitting down in the hall and going and hearing this live from a teacher that I had been studying with, I would probably say maybe it was 10 weeks into the semester, because I think there are 15 weeks in the Juilliard semester. It was towards the end of the semester, and getting to hear everything that was said in the lesson put into practice on stage was like, it was amazing. And I have a very kind of special attachment to this. Judy's vibrato, it never sounds like the pitch of the note is changing, because ultimately that is what's happening. Fundamentally,
Right.
we have to cause a change in intonation to get the vibration, but it's so imperceptible the way that she does it, that it sounds like the note is glowing. And Judy has this. Kim is very Kim does the same, and Trish. And when I was in school, I was kind of in this mecca for amazing, and I called it like a resonance vibrato. That was just like, it's like somebody took, instead of like the note going up and down, it's as if somebody takes a volume button and just goes like this on a dial. It's like the volume of the note is changing, not the pitch. And what it allows one to do, and you can really hear in the second movement, is really play with quite an active vibrato. It's not a slow vibrato, but it never kind of supersedes the tone, supersedes the dynamics. It's always integrated into it, because I'm never listening and saying, oh, that's a great vibrato. I'm sitting here talking about how it's a great vibrato, but I'm not sitting there like, nitpicking and being like, oh, well, how many pulses is she doing to show the change in when the note's going to change, all that. No, it's happening organically. It's happening naturally, because it's part of the sound, it's part of the air, it's part of the shape. And it's just, for me, something that we all should be kind of striving for, because there are two ways. A vibrato like this, you need to be able to do it all. You need something that's very kind of operatic and singy, as this is, and then at the same time you need to kind of be able to play with something a little more, I would call it, it's like a character vibrato in a way. Like the vibrato that you would use in Shostakovich 9 would undoubtedly be different than the vibrato that you would be using in, the second movement of the Mozart Concerto. Now, the way that things are spun, that the sound is spun in measure 28, so the recap of this opening theme, I think is so beautiful. And for me, it's actually, I think of it, it's a little trickier when I play it, because it's easier because you've been playing for a little bit, but it's harder in terms of you don't have the 2 bars before you come in, you have the 1 bar, so you kind of have to kind of prepare things earlier. And I think it's just a really, if people looked at me and said, how should this be played, I would point to measure 28. It's just the way that the C glows and evolves into the F. I think it's just fantastic. I love it. So yeah.
Yeah, something about that, the opening, and then of course at 28 too. Something I really distinctly remember in lessons is, it is like you were saying, it's tough to phrase because it's so segmented. It's, in 3 segments with rests kind of punctuating these motives. But something I always took from her playing, and she tried to get me to do, is you have to like let the last note of like each sort of segment ring a little bit, and it has to just still keep that forward motion throughout the whole phrase. Otherwise it stops dead and you lose that lyrical aspect to it.
Right. I mean, we have to create the illusion of resonance, you know. I mean, if a string instrument, they they stop plucking, you know, the sound, it keeps going, and we have to come up with ways to make this happen. What's amazing is we spend our time making our short notes shorter, and making, you know, when they're fast, and then finding ways to make less space between, you know, note endings in slower music, you know.